And all right, so we're going to go over quickly Django associations. Hopefully we'll have some time tomorrow to review it also. But I'll make sure you guys have a good place to start. So I just want to go over again the many field, because that's probably tripping up some students, and also the foreign key fields. How do we actually use those? So I'm going to create my models, and I have my test here as a reference. So looking at my test cases, I need to create certain fields on my models. So looking at my tests, I need an actor, I need a movie and a role I'm going to create. But within those models, it looks like role has some field called movie in it. Also, it looks like movie has some field called actors in it. So I got to think about this as I'm creating my models here. So I'm going to do this kind of quickly, but let's create some models. So class, one model we need to create is movie. That's going to be models.model. Let's say movie has a title. We're not going to create all the relevant fields, but we'll create some models.
Bailey, come.
Please mute yourself if you are not muted. Max length is going to be whatever, 164 characters. All right, that's going to be my movie model for now. I'm going to create an actor model. Models.model. Let's say the actor has a name. So models.char field. Again, none of these really matter for my test cases, but I want to make this somewhat relevant to what our models might look like. Okay, so actor's going to have a name. Maybe they have like a birth date, whatever. We'll stick with name. So now the question is, what is the relationship between movie and actors? These are two models. Always ask the same questions. How do they relate to each other? So my question is, can an actor be in multiple different movies? Anyone have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I'll take that. Yep. Yeah, we can have, Tom Cruise is in a bunch of different movies. I don't even know how many movies he's in, probably like 60, 100, who knows? So the answer to that side of the question is yes. All right, the opposite relationship. Can one movie have multiple actors in them?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely, right? It'd be a pretty boring movie if the movie just had one actor in it. I'm sure there are some movies that have a single actor in it, but most movies have multiple actors. So we established, okay, between our movie model and actor model, we have a many-to-many relationship. So we need to create a many-to-many field. Now the question is, where do we put it? Do we put it in our movie model or our actor model? The answer is, you get to pick. It's a many-to-many, so it's same from either side. So in this case, since I have my actor model created after my movie model, I'm going to put in my actor model. So the order of these classes kind of matter. So in this case, I'm going to create a new field, call it movies plural, because again, one actor can be in multiple movies. I'm going to set that equal to models dot many-to-many. And the question is, well, what?
I'm sorry, can I ask you a really quick question? Does it matter what order you put them in, considering like how they're created in the test cases?
The
test case creates the actor first. So I'm just wondering if that needed to be like actor first or no?
Good question. No. So this should not impact, the order of this should not impact how we create our objects, but how we refer to objects between classes, that does matter. So in this case, I'm creating my many-to-many in my second class, listed class, because I'm going to refer to movie here. Since I'm using movie here, movie must be defined when we get to this part of our code. If I swap these, I'll get an error saying movie is not defined. So I have movie defined first, and then I define actor. So now I'm saying, hey, this is my many-to-many field. I have a many-to-many relationship between actor and movie. That's why I put movie right here. Next thing, we have to put an on-delete mechanism. I know I brushed upon this. This is basically saying, let's say we have an actor that's in a movie. So let's say Tom Cruise is in Mission Impossible. If we delete Tom Cruise from our actor table, what happens to the movie that refers to Tom Cruise? Do we want that movie to be deleted from our records? Do we want to be retained but remove the association with actors? That's what the on-delete method is asking for. If you say models.cascade, this is the same thing what SQL will do. Cascade says, if you delete a related record, delete me also. So if we delete a movie, so if we delete actor Tom Cruise, any movie with Tom Cruise in it is going to be deleted also. That's what this cascade is saying. All right, so we have cascade. The important thing here is related name. Related name is optional in theory, but required for this challenge. And I'm going to talk about why. So the related name, and this definitely tripped up some students and definitely trips me up sometimes. Related name, I'm just going to put a note here, is how the opposites so this is related name is for the opposite side of the relationship. What I mean by that is we're creating the many-to-many here. Actor is a front side. The opposite side is movie. So the many-many has an opposite side, which is movie. So related name is how the opposite model, in this case movie, will refer to the data it wants. So in this case, I'm going to name this actors. The way I just kind of remember it, it's not the smartest way, but I'm just saying if I'm creating a field in this model, the related name should be that model. Because this is how movie is going to refer to actors, meaning there's an imaginary field here that I have access to called actors. That's what related name is saying. How does the opposite side kind of refer to the data? All right, the reason we need it for this challenge is because we got to look at the test cases. Notice that self.movie has some field called actors on it. That is the actors that I've highlighted here, which is coming from the related name. I do not need to create an actors here because we already have that from this relationship. Now, just to kind of change things up slightly, I can flip these. There's nothing stopping me from flipping these. So if I flip this and put actors first and movie second, this is fine, but notice that movie now has a yellow squiggly line. If I hover over it, it should tell me. All right, my tooltips seem not to be showing up today, but basically it's saying movie is not defined. So in this case, I need to take my many-to-many. Again, it's reflexive. It doesn't matter which side you put the many-to-many field on. It's going to work the same way on either side. So here I have actors, and then I'm going to refer to the actor model. And then in this case, my related name should be movies because my actor wants a field called movies. So I'm going to have the same name fields. It just depends on where I actually add the physical many-to-many field. I think there was a comment or question, Orphe?
I didn't mute myself, I was coughing.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right, so either way, doesn't matter what side you put on, you only need it on one side. You do not need to add a many-to-many on both sides of the relationship. That's going to kind of duplicate your relationships. But now that we have actors and we have access to what the test cases are expecting. We have movie.actors. That's one of the test cases. We also have actor.movies. So this many-to-many gave us just that. But we have some additional fields we need. Looks like there's a roles that's in play here. So this is where I'm going to want to create another model called role. And this is going to be our join table or our join model. So I do model here. All right, so a role is basically how an actor and a movie tied together. It's similar to how for our school example, we had enrollments. That was a combination of courses and students. We created enrollments to kind of join those together. Role is the same thing here. So we're going to create a we're going to create an actor and have a foreign key in this case, because this is a one-to-many from this table. Models that foreign key. And the same thing happens. The reason it's a foreign key is because we've got to ask the same questions. Can one role be played by multiple actors? For the most part, no. There are special movies where maybe you have like different actors playing the same role, but one role is played by one actor, right? So, James Bond is played by Daniel Craig for a particular role. Now, there's different James Bonds, but in one James Bond movie, it's played by one actor. So in this case, for actor, it's going to be a one-to-many, meaning one role can be played by one actor, but Daniel Craig can play many different roles in many different movies. So that's a one-to-many. So in this case, we point to the actor table. So foreign key to the actor table. We have the same on deletes cascade. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. And then we also want a related name because this is how the opposite side of this relationship is going to refer to this data. So in this case, I'm going to have related name. I'm going to call it roles because this is going to add an imaginary field to my actor table called roles now. So given one actor, Daniel Craig, I can look up Daniel Craig's and do dot roles on his the object for his actor, and I can see every role he's been a part of. Because this foreign key allows me to access it from the opposite side if I want to. This is what Django is doing for us. SQL would not let you do this. This is what Django is doing. So likewise, we need a movie. So Daniel Craig played James Bond in a particular movie, whether it be Skyfall or Spectre or Casino Royale or what's the other one? Quantum of Solace or there's one more. Yeah, it's No Time to Die, the latest one, which I didn't like, but you guys didn't ask for my opinion.
Incorrect.
So I'm going to copy this. And just to highlight this, because again, this does throw some students. You want to call this the same thing. You're not, what you are not doing is you're not creating two fields that are called roles and roles. So some students are like, wait, can I name the related name the same thing, even though I'm in the same model? The answer is yes, because the related name is for the opposite side. So what this is doing is now creating a new field in our movie model and calling it roles. So both of these are called roles, but they're in different models. So totally okay to do this. This should not be role, this should be movie. But there we go. So we have two foreign keys, but now we have these extra fields called roles. And the reason we have to do this for this example is because if we look at our test cases, it's expecting some field called roles, and we want that to tie to our join table here. Edgar, you have your hand raised?
Yes. So if it wasn't for these test cases, is related name always like necessary when it comes to the one-to-many?
Great question. No, it is optional. So if we have a foreign key and I left this off, that's fine. Django has a default naming scheme. In this case, it's going to be, let's see, for the actor, it's going to be role_set. This is what Django will opt to name it if you choose not to give it a related name. I always choose a related name because I want control over the naming. But if you choose not to do it for whatever reason, Django has default way to do it. So it's not going to break. It's just going to say, hey, you got to refer to this as role set instead of roles. I don't like that naming, so I'll usually use related name. Porfi, question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there a benefit to doing it this way instead of just using the through on the many-to-many for the role?
Yes. So sorry, I need to change this actually. We need a through here. So we need the through value here because this is our join table. If you remember from lecture, this join table is optional in certain cases. In this case, we're not storing any extra data. So theoretically, I could omit this value and then I would not have a through table here. This would automatically create a join table for me and everything would work, but my test cases would fail because we need something called roles. In order to have roles, we need to establish our foreign keys ourselves. So that through value, if you choose to create your own join model, you need to tell the many-to-many that use that model, don't create your own. So the through here is necessary if we have our own join model. If we do not have this join model, we do not have this through value. Porfi, any follow-up questions there?
Nope, I got it.
Good question. I'm glad you asked that because I did forget to add the through here. If you omit this, Django is going to be like, all right, you want me to create the join table for you. So it's going to create some actor movie join table. It won't create a role table and use that as a join table. Sanjaya, I think you had your hand up. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that was the same question. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. It's 2 for 1. Great. So that should take care of this challenge. Obviously, I've not run my test cases. I could try to run it, but let's see. Python manage.py make migrations. So all right, we took up half of stand down with this, but IMDb need to be in the right directory. No changes detected. That's lying. We are in IMDb, movie DB. Okay. Did you guys have to go through this?
Yeah, you have to do the apps, the database, and then you have to create the database. The
Oh,
test
wow,
cases
that's-
are not doing that.
Way more annoying than I thought it'd be. Sorry for having to do this, but yeah, let's go IMDb. We need to do our database. PostgreSQL. Good refresher, but I thought we would set this up for you guys, but apparently not. Let's call this IMDb. Hopefully that's fine. Create DB IMDb. I think for my test cases, it's not going to use this database, is it? All right, so we have our app name, database name. Is that all we need? No app. Oh, sorry. App name is MovieDB. So always a lesson in good naming. I prefer putting proj and app, as you guys see. This, not the best naming scheme. Fingers crossed, that didn't work. Delete. All right, so I have an error in my models. That's fine. Go to models. Next for line 12. So I guess for Cascade, we don't need this. All right, take that away. All right, so I guess you use onDelete only for foreign keys. Many does not care about onDeletes. Good to know. All right, so we got our models. My migration's made. We wanted to migrate. Manage.py migrate. All right, cool. So can we run our test case now? Python manage.py test. Okay, ran 6 test cases. What happened here? We failed a whole bunch of them. That's not good. Unexpected argument movie.
Did you mean to delete the through
I did
line 12?
not. That's one thing once. Migrate again. Screw that database. We'll create another one. So the issue there was I created a database without the through, or a model without the through parameter for the many, and now I'm trying to insert it. And I think my database is unhappy with me. Migrate. All right, there we go. I deleted that. All right, let's go migrations. Don't do this in practice. Don't delete your migrations, but I'm going to do it. Don't tell anybody I did it. All right, let's go to our 4th database. Create DB IMDb DB4. No limit on databases. Let's try that one more time. So we want to make migrations. Cool, and migrate. All right, 4th time's a charm. Thank you, I made a mistake. Yeah, so the through table right here, the through value, we need that. If you omit it and then try to add later, not gonna go really well. I'm sure there's some way to resolve it. But my resolution was creating a 4th database. Let's try running our test now. Test. Python manage.py test. Okay, still getting errors. What's going on here? Role does not have movie. Oh, that's my issue. Typos galore. Yes. Hopefully I don't have to create a 5th database here. All right, let's try our test again. I had movies instead of movie here. This is singular because the one to many. Now what's up? Let's see. Role.
Does your related name have to be movie as well?
No, these should be When I have a related name up here, movie should be fine. Related name here, I forgot that. Guess what? We're going to create a new database and call it database 5. IMDb, DB5, 5th time's a charm. I'm just being lazy here.
Hey, Ankur, since you're going from movie through role to get to actor, do you need the movie foreign key set up?
These?
Yeah, so since you're going for the many through role for actors, do you need movie set up since movie's already coming through with that many?
So the many is not giving me movies, I don't think. It's giving me access to roles from the foreign key, and then I should have access to actors here. Or I have actors here. So I have actors here, roles here, but there's nothing conflicting with movie here. Each
But then
role.
that's
Go ahead.
So where is it putting movies? In actor only?
Yeah, so movies is like that imaginary field that shows up here. So if I have an actor and want to see their movies, instead of going through the role table, I can say, hey, Tom Cruise, where are all your movies? But if I want to know all of his roles, I should still have access to roles. Say, Tom Cruise, what roles have you played in the past?
Anchor, you didn't need the on delete equals models dot cascade, right?
In my many, yeah, it was yelling at me for that, I think. Let's figure this out, test. All right, there we go. So issues where my database was screwed up 3 different times. I created a new database, made sure I had my through value right here, make sure I did not have a typo in my roles. So with everything done correctly, let's kind of review here. So again, we need to establish the relationship. So actor and movie, they have a many-to-many. So we create a many-to-many field, have a related name, and tell it to use the role table as a join table. The reason we want this is because we want access to these fields, roles right here. Otherwise, we cannot access movie.roles because that field would never exist. So again, there's a difference between roles and movies, right? Actor, if you want to know the movies, you kind of hop to this relationship. If you want to know the roles, you use this relationship. But the important thing is related names. That's probably something that tripped some of you guys up, but we just want to make sure that the opposite side, how does that opposite side refer to the data that it wants? Any questions about using a many-to-many or foreign key? Again, you have a lot of examples to go through, but the idea here is you tell it what side, the other side of the relationship, how the other side of the relationship refers to it, and then for foreign keys, you need it on delete. I'm not sure why many-to-many would not need that. Any questions about anything there? No questions? So do that, Google. Any questions about validations or associations? Sukhdev.
On the validation, on the last one, I was just trying to figure out how do you actually access record date? Like once you have an instance, how do you access a value from one of the keys?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Sukhdev. We got a few more minutes left here. This was something that we did in one of the breakout rooms. I thought it was beneficial, so I'm going to do that quickly. But it's kind of good to know the entire flow of full clean. So if I go to my tests, we want to do test number 8. Sukhdev was asking about. And I'm going to uncomment some of these just so I don't deal with them. Okay, so I want to start off with full clean and what that is actually doing. So if I go to my tests, you guys probably noticed that we're calling full clean, and that eventually is going to raise an exception that gets handled right here. How is this connected? So if I go to full clean, definition, this is the base code that's being ran. And we saw the documentation for it, but there's 3 functions that full clean is calling. This is in the base models code. It's calling clean fields, it's calling clean, it's also calling validate unique. Validate unique is just for uniqueness, nothing too much to talk about there. But these two methods get called and certain things happen. What does clean fields actually do? We could dive into that and go to definition. This is the clean fields method, which is called from full clean. If you kind of dig deep into the code, again, not always the easiest to read, but one thing you will discover is that each field has a clean method. So F is a field, clean is a method on those fields, meaning if I look back at my models, this datetime field has a clean method and char field has a clean method. If you actually go down into definition for these fields, keep going down and down, every field inherits from the field class. So if you go to the field class and search for clean, notice that each field has a clean method, and this is exactly what's ran when that clean method is called. So again, just to recap, full clean calls clean fields calls the clean method on each individual field. And this is what's ran for that. So self.validate, there's some like default validations for each field type. Additionally, you can specify your own validators, and that's what's ran by calling run validators. So this is probably a little more detail than you care to know about. But essentially, if I add a custom validator to like my date field, I could say my custom validator. This validator is going to be run once the clean method is called for each field. So run validators will run whatever validators I have with the value passed in. All right, so a little more detail there, but that's how full clean is working. So if I go back to my test, full clean is going to call clean on each individual field. And that's where your individual validators, so if I had a validator, which I not created, I guess this was one that I was working with a student. I had a new validator that said first letter of your name has to be capitalized. So this validator is going to be called when we call the clean method on each field, on the first name or last name if we want to use this validator. The difference here, just to wrap up, is for our 8th test case, we want to compare two different values. We want to compare record date and record broken dates, which is somewhere here. Record broken date is set to this, let's break it apart. So record date is right now, record broken date is 1 day ago, which should not be allowed. So instead of having a validator for this field or this field, we need to kind of validate the entire model, the instance of this model together. So we can't do it through an individual validator. That's why we go to our second parts of full clean. So go to full clean. If you remember clean fields, this is where each individual validator is ran. Clean will run for the entire, your entire model. So if I look at clean and see what it's doing, it's literally doing nothing. But notice the comment. If you want to do extra model-wide validation, in this case we do. The model-wide validation is we want to compare two fields, the record date and the record broken date. So the base class is literally doing nothing, but this existence of this function allows us to override it, meaning if we want to do something during this call, we can do it. So if I go to my models, I can override, can I have this uncommented? I'm overriding that clean function in the base class. Even though the base class is literally doing nothing, you should have it should be good practice to call the base class regardless. So here I'm saying, hey, base class, whatever your clean method is doing, you can go do what you want. I'm gonna let you do what you want. In addition to whatever the base class is doing, this is my additional logic that's happening. In this case, I'm checking, all right, broken date, are you less than record date? If you are, I'm raising a validation error. Another thing that tripped up some students and tripped me up also is this validation error, you want to return a dictionary. You need to tell it what particular field this error is for, because the clean method is not for one field, it's for all your fields. So if you don't provide it the field name in a dictionary, it's going to think it applies to all your fields. That's different than a normal validator here, where I just return a string. So this knows that I'm validating a particular field. In this case, if I look at my models, I had first name is going to use my first letter capitalized validator. So when that validator gets run, it knows it's using it for the first name field. And so that dictionary will automatically be created with first name as the key. and whatever validation error I raise here. But for the clean method, no, there's no single field it's working on. It's working on the whole unit. So you need to tell it, hey, here's a dictionary with the actual field that we care about and the error that's associated with that field. I know that was a lot to cover in like 5 minutes. Andrew Tran, question?
Why'd you tell us to run the base method clean when didn't you just show us that it does nothing?
Yes, but that's what I discovered. What if I was just using this and I was like, I don't know what the clean method is doing in the base class? That's kind of that abstraction. We don't know what it's doing, but we want to make sure that we give it a chance to do what it wants. Unless again, big asterisks, and this is a deep dive into inheritance. Unless we know for sure we don't want the base class to do its work. I have an example of this up here where we want to override the field's clean method. This is not going to make much sense aside from the student that I was talking to. I'm creating my own char field, and I'm kind of doing some custom. I basically changed the ordering of run validators and validate. So I don't want the base class to do this work. I'm going to do the work myself. Versus here, I may want the base class to do whatever it's going to do. I'm going to add on top of it. So yes, base class does literally nothing, but that could change. What if Django version 5.0 adds some functionality to clean? I don't want to be limited to like avoiding that work. So I want to still let the base class do whatever it needs to do. Shun, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just saying, so if you had went to that, I think it was in base.py, that clean method, and just put that if statement you have right there, it would work, right? Does that make sense? But I mean, I don't think that's smart to do, but it would, right?
It would not.
Oh, it wouldn't?
Well, it would work for this particular model, but if I had a different model, this clean is in the generic model class. So I can scroll up and find it. Wow, this is a big class. All right, it's in class model. This class, this is for every model you create. So you would not want to modify the base code. That means every single model you create would try to refer to something called record broken date, which is not going to exist for every model. So in this case, we have one model. You could theoretically change the base code and it would work, but you're going to kind of screw over any other model you create because it would be an error for this line of code.
Copy.
Good question. All right, we are running a little past time, so I want to make sure you guys get to your evenings. But before we get there, any questions or comments about validators, associations? If there are still comments, we're going to do a review tomorrow. So give your best attempt for these challenges, and then we'll make sure we answer questions tomorrow. Kat?
Do we commit migration files?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, because your migration files is what we're gonna like. If I downloaded your project, I'd run migrate, and those migrations would be the ones that run. So I'm not gonna run make migrations on your project. I'll run migrate. You will run make migrations. Rob?
Yeah, just to go over, I didn't look at it, but what's tomorrow look like since it's we don't have class Thursday, Friday? Are we doing like a review on what we did Monday through Wednesday, or how's that look?
Good question. So tomorrow, Wednesday, basically we have 2 half weeks. So there's no review tomorrow. There's no retro tomorrow. It's just like, again, just like a normal Wednesday. And then next week's going to be like the second half of what this week would have been. So yeah, good question. Tomorrow is going to be probably going to do a technical interview problem to start. We'll try to review some of these challenges. And then tomorrow it's kind of a review. We're going to go over the polls tutorial, Django tutorial. But now we have databases. We're going to tie in databases and do some CRUDing. That's something we have not done too much of. So we'll do some CRUDing tomorrow. So I think there's a lot tomorrow. Might be a long day, but you have 4 days to recover from it. So we'll get you to your evening then. Thank you so much for staying down.